Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Long time no see. Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you my process for modeling a Juul. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's one of these new vapes that everyone seems to have nowadays. I thought it'd be a pretty good quick study because it isn't that complicated to model, so it's going to really help us get comfortable with some hard surface modeling principles. A lot of these techniques I've learned from guys like Master Xeon 1001, Chip Walters, CG Thoughts, and Cedric Lupier. I hope I said that right. I will not be using any add-ons throughout this video that you have to purchase, but some of these guys are the creators of some excellent resources that really help specifically in hard surface modeling and some other things. So definitely check that out. I'll have some links in the description for you guys. I'll be going through this whole process pretty unapologetically. I might make some mistakes. I'm just going to try to fix them on the fly and pretty much show you my whole process for creating this, from modeling to shading all the way down to the rendering. So let's get started. All right, the first thing we're going to want to do is open up a Blender. If you don't know how to do that, then damn, what are you even doing here, bro? Hit A. We're going to delete all that detrite. Sorry, I'm on my laptop, so everything's still pretty newbie. I might not even have some add-ons, but let's go. We're going to go Shift A, Image, Background, and we're going to bring in some of those reference images I provided for you guys. So make sure you find that. Everything should be labeled for you already. And I'm just going to apologize in advance. These are not the greatest images of all time. They're not very lined up, but you're gonna have to make the best of a bad situation. So when we bring this in here, I'm going to try and center that up as best as possible, but one step further, just to be preemptive with what we're doing, I'm going to rotate that at 90 degrees because I know my front reference is going to be like such, so I want to make sure that's facing the right way. Now that I have that in place, I'm going to go F2 to rename. I'm going to call this top view reference, and I'm going to go M to create a new collection. Call this one. I'm just going to click there. Call that references. So now that I have that set up, let me just turn on my screencast keys real quick so you guys can see what I'm clicking on. Now that we have that, we're going to go Shift A, Mesh. We're going to bring in a plane. I'm going to go tab into edit mode and scale that in edit mode universally. I'm going to go Shift Y, Shift X, and just try to make sure that everything I'm doing at this point is in edit mode in terms of scaling, because when we start using our modifiers, it's going to make a difference. So now we should have a plane that looks something like that. I'm going to go F2. We're going to rename this Juul Body Mesh. I'm just going to make sure that this is in my collection. And I'm just going to make sure that I have the eyeball turned on for my collection. And I'm also going to make sure that I can see all of these options as well. From there, we're going to go into our modifiers. We're going to go add modifier. We're going to bring in a bevel. I'm going to call this shape vert bevel. Just try to rename everything as much as possible so it makes sense for us, and also if someone else gets access to our file, they know what's going on. We're going to tick off only vertices. If at this point you've been scaling in object mode, where you can see those values changing and they're not 111, just make sure you go Control A and go scale. And that should make sure everything is working correctly for you guys. All right. So now that we have that, I'm going to bump up my segments to about 10. Just get that decently smooth. And now we're going to add another modifier. We're going to call this one solidify, or it's going to come in as solidify. And right now, if I go positively, it's going to go downwards. So I'm just going to change my offset to be +1. So now when I increase my thickness, it should go upwards. Next, we're going to see these faceted edges. I don't know if you like modeling like that, but if you do, keep it. If not, we're going to go W, shade smooth. And that's going to look a little bit jacked up. That's an easy fix. We're going to go here to our object data panel. We're going to go to normals and we're going to check auto smooth. This is something I use pretty frequently, so I've added it to my quick favorites already. And once you do that, you can hit Q and you'll have all your quick favorites right there. I've also added wireframe and face orientation because they're really helpful. I recommend you guys do the same if you want to find wireframe and face orientation. They're right here. And just do the same thing. Right click, add that to your quick favorites, and you should be good to go. Next, we're going to go to our front view. I'm just using tilde key to access all these views. Shift A, image. We're going to bring in background. We're going to go front reference, and we should have that. I'm going to go R and just rotate that 90 degrees. Pull that up. And I'm going to go into our image data. It's already there. We're going to go alpha 0.25. Same value as before. I'm just going to scale this up and try to match it to what I already have. I'm just using S. I'm not going SX on this. It's going to skew the image. Make sure it's all universal. And from there, just GX, SGZ, GX, GZ. And that looks good. Go back to our Juul body mesh, go modifier. We're going to bring this up in thickness until we get about there. That should be good. I'm just going to make sure to rename my front reference as well. Select it, F2, front view reference. And we should be good. So from here, I'm just going to go into edit mode on our Juul body mesh. I'm going to go Shift S, cursor to selected on the edge that I got going on the Y-axis. And then I'm going to go Shift A, mesh, bring in another plane. I'm going to move that up, go to my front view. I'm going to rotate that in the X90. I'm going to go GZ, move that up. Go into edit mode. I'm going to take the top down a little bit. And I'm just going to scale the whole thing in the X direction a little bit to fit about there. And I'm going to scale this out in the Y like such. And just kind of match it up as closely as you can to what you see here. So if I kind of move this in, let's go like this. And now, if I set origin to the center of mass on that plane again, Shift S, cursor to selected to bring that down to the middle of my Juul, and line that up one more time here. That should be pretty close. We're going to go modifiers, solidify, increase that thickness. And I'm going to make sure I rename this. I'm going to call this mouth or top cutout bool. I'm going to create another collection, call that my bools. Wow. That did not work out. Collection 3 had already moved it in there. I'm just going to rename that bools. And from here, if you have bool tools enabled and you're familiar with it, that is good. If not, go ahead and select that. It really makes this a little bit faster. I'm on my laptop, so I don't have a numpad, and I don't really feel like changing the hotkey, so I'm just going to do a really OG style. I'm going to go to my Juul body mesh here. I'm going to go add modifier, bool, set that to difference, and I'm going to select my object here. And now if you see it's already cut out my mesh, and now if I want to see that, I go to my object panel here, and I go viewport visibility, and I go display as a bounds. I really recommend you set a hotkey for this. For me, I set that to Alt-1. I believe that's the same as Chip Walters, the big man. And it's worked for me. It'll probably work for you. And anywhere I am, even if I'm in, well, I guess not in the view layers mode, but usually when I go in here and I hit Alt-1, it brings itself up, and I could choose between wire, bounds, and textured. So I'm just going to keep that as bounds. I'm also going to check my wireframe here. And what we want to avoid is we don't want our top part here cutting in to our vertex bevels, because that is going to give us some complications later when we add our final bevel to make everything look smooth and nice. So at this point, we should be good to continue. Grab our main mesh again. We're going to go Shift D. We're going to move that up. We're going to get rid of our Boolean modifier. And we're going to also change our offset to be -1. And now I'm going to bring up the thickness to just be about there. And now we're going to do our inset cut. So I'm going to rename this to top in cut bool. I'm going to move that to my bools collection. And I'm just going to grab everything in edit mode and just scale that down. Go to top view, go to X-ray mode or wireframe mode. And I like how it looks like on the X-axis, and I'm just going to scale it down a little bit on the Y, skewing it. Go back to object mode, and I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to go bools. I'm going to rename this bool top cutout bool. We're going to go add modifier, bool, difference. We're going to pick the object, which is our top in cut bool. I'm going to grab that object, go Alt-1. We're going to go bounds again so we can see what we're doing. And now from here, we can vary the level of in-cutting that we have. So I'm just going to go about 0.7 for now. We can change that later, which is great. And I'm just going to also make sure everything looks kind of even. It looks like my edges are a little bit fatter. So what I could do is play with this bevel and just bring that in like that. Grab everything in edit mode and scale it in the X, and now I should get something looking a little bit more even. At this point, we're going to want to save, so go ahead and save this wherever you want. Going to my YouTube Juul 2 Blender files, and I'm going to call this Juul modeling 1. I'm just going to save that. So now we're going to want to tackle this little power display icon here. I'm going to make sure my cursor is still where I want it. That's fine. And I'm going to go Shift A mesh. We're going to go single vert, add single vert. If you don't have that option, you're going to go F4 preferences, and we're going to make sure we tick off extra objects here. Go ahead and make sure you got that enabled, then you should be able to continue. I'm going to go into object mode. I'm going to pull that up. And pretty much this origin mark lets me know exactly where my vertex is. Move that to about the center of that display doohickey. Go into edit mode, vertices, and I'm going to EX. And now we should have this edge. If I go add modifier, we're going to go screw, and we're going to make sure that we change our axis to Y. So now we should have a circle. We're also going to want to merge vertices and make sure this is set to something a little bit lower, maybe 0.001. If you have this set too high, what you're going to see happen is if we bring this closer to the object origin, your mesh will fully disappear. So if you think everything should be working correctly and your mesh is simply not there, just make sure your merge vertices value isn't set too high. So I'm going to go back to front view and kind of just eyeball the size of this. We can move it that way and check, and that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to stick with that. Steps, I'm going to bring that up to 64. That should give me something really, really smooth. Get rid of my wireframe. And I'm going to add a modifier. We're going to go solidify. We're going to move that offset to +1. And now I can just move this back like that. And I'm just going to move that kind of in towards my mesh. Go Q, auto smooth. I'm going to go Alt-1 bounds. And now I'm going to do the Boolean process. We're going to go to our main mesh, add modifier, Boolean, difference. We're going to select our vert, which I should have renamed. Let's rename that to power display bool. And that's already in our bools collection. And now if I move that in towards our mesh here, we should have a cutout looking like such. It doesn't need to go too far in, but you know, anything is good. We're going to put another mesh in here anyway, so you're not going to be able to see the back really. So let's see if we can go only rim. It doesn't do anything, that's fine. we can continue from here. So now what I'm going to want to do is smooth everything out a little bit. And I'm just going to add a bevel. And we're going to call this our final bevel. Set it to angle. 30 is usually fine. 28 works really well also. We're going to bump up our segments to something like 6. And we can play with the width, but we got to get rid of clamp overlap. Now we can really get something nice and smoother going, because nothing is ever just a super sharp 90-degree angle and edge. That's not realistic. So when we add that, we get something a little bit more believable and high polish. You're going to get some artifacting like this usually when you use booleans. And the easiest way to fix this is either through beveling, and once you've added your beveling, you're going to want to add a weighted normal modifier, and that's going to clean almost all your artifacts up. It's not a one-trick solution that's going to solve everything for you, but I'd say almost 90% of the time it's going to work really well. So here I can see a little bit of faceting. It's very slight, but it looks a little bumpy. You might not get this close to the edge ever to look at something in that much detail, but if we want to fix that up, I would just bump up the segments on this to say like 22. I usually keep it even values, and I could do the same thing on our main mesh here. Go segments, and I could bump that up all the way to 22 as well. So if I go wireframe mode, you can see we have quite a bit of geometry going on right now, but everything's looking pretty smooth. So what I'm going to do from this point is also, I believe, all of these should be fine. I'm going to grab our power display bool. I'm going to go Shift D to duplicate that. I'm going to go to textured, and I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller than our hole here. I'm going to move that back inside. I'm going to take my solidify and bring it in a little bit. Bring this out a little bit. And I'm also going to add a bevel to this as well. Just going to go. So if we're really zoomed in close on an object like this, and we like to be working like this instead of being in orthographic mode, we can just go N, go View, and make sure we take down our clip start. So we can start zooming in real close. Before this was at 0.01 or 0.001 or something like that, or 0.1. Yeah, I believe it was at like 0.1. At 0.1, your camera's just going to clip into anything if you get too close. So just crank that all the way down. Okay, bevel segments. Let's bring that up. Make sure we're angled. And got something nice and smooth like that. That's cool. All right, I'm going to move this to our main collection here. I'm going to rename this collection main. And I'm going to call this power display mesh. All right. So now that we have that, let's go to our right side and let's bring in, I'm going to go Shift C to make sure my cursor is in the middle of the world at the origin, as they would say. We're going to go image, background. We're going to bring in our side reference here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go R, and I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees. And I'm just going to move that up, G, and I'm going to do the same process. I'm just going to scale this, move it up, scale this, move it up, move it in the Y, scale it, move it up, move it in the Y, scale a little bit more, and something like that should be fine. And we're seeing that we're matching up pretty closely. I'm just going to scale a little bit more, move that in, and we're almost exact. I'm going to scale it down a little bit more. I'm just going to get as close as possible. And you know what? That works for me. So now we're going to want to do the bools on the side, which pretty much look like spheres. So we're going to grab our main mesh again. We're going to go edge mode, Shift S, cursor to selected. We're going to go Shift A. We're going to go UV sphere. There we go. Segments, we're going to go 64, make it a little bit smoother. I'm going to Shift W, shade smooth, and we're going to bring this all the way up, go to the right side, and I'm just going to scale that down. Scale it down. So I scaled this in object mode, so I'm also just going to hit scale just in case. And I'm going to move it like so. I'm going to grab our main mesh here. And I'm going to also rename these other booleans that I have here. I believe this is the inset. I'm going to call this our in-cut bool. And this is our power display bool. We go add modifier, boolean. I'm just going to move this above my weighted normal modifier and above the final double. I'm going to call this one side bool. Side bools. I'm going to pick object, I'm going to pick the sphere, and I'm also going to go bounds. So now we should see this. And in this case, we can see a lot of artifacting. Our geometry does not like what's going on at all. And the easiest way to fix this is we're actually going to grab our sphere and we're going to rotate it in the Y 90 degrees. And that is really going to help out quite a bit. That's looking a lot cleaner. We don't have any artifacting and it's looking nice and smooth, so we could definitely work with that. I believe the reason being is at the top you can see here that the faces and the edges really start skewing a bit, and just the overall direction with it going up is kind of interfering with the automatic segments that are being created by the Boolean. So just rotating that really fixes that up and cleans it really nicely. Now we do have the same cutout on this side, and I'm going to just make sure that our origin on our main mesh is set to the center of our geometry. I'll just go center of mass. And I'm going to grab our bool sphere here, which I should call our side groove, side cut in bool. Let's do that. Move that to our bools collection. Add modifier, mirror, and we're going to pick our mirror object and make that the Juul body mesh. So now when I look here, we should be good, and we're just mirroring across the X axis. Everything's looking nice and clean. And I'm just going to go to our empty here. Just bring that transparency down as well to 0.25 and rename it our side view reference. And we're going to put that into our references. And yeah, we've done pretty well so far. We've got our top, we've got our power display, we've got our sides here. We can be proud of that. We did all of our renaming. I think that should be good for part one. I don't want to make it too dense and too long. So get to this point. Once you're at this point and you feel comfortable, come join me in part two when we do the bottom and also the text at the back. All right, I'll see you guys later.